Hey, how's it going, everyone? Bass here, and it is about that time. It is time to start diving into the 2022 NFL Draft, and in today's video, I want to basically go over the biggest draft needs for the Green Bay Packers in this 2022 offseason. And if you are new here and want more Packers news, analysis, and updates, I post almost daily, and we'll be covering everything from the draft to the salary cap to free agency in this offseason for the Packers, so consider going down, clicking that subscribe button, and also leaving a like on the video. Now, obviously, this year with draft needs for the Green Bay Packers, a lot will depend on what they do when it comes to the salary cap and their own free agents. You know, if they lose both Davante Adams and MVS, who are both unrestricted free agents, obviously the need for a wide receiver shoots up to number one. And letting both of Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith go, if they were to do that, it would do the same thing with edge. So since there is so much unknown with what the Packers will do with all these cap casualties and other players that are free agents who they might bring back and might not bring back, basically, I'm going to be doing this based off of what I think will happen. And basically what I think will happen, if you didn't see already, I made a fixing the salary cap video for the Green Bay Packers, where basically, just to run over things real quickly, Davante Adams is kept, Aaron Rodgers is kept, they cut Randall Cobb, cut Zadarius Smith, Rasul Douglas is resigned, as is Devondre Campbell, and MVS signs elsewhere. So if you haven't watched that video already, go up, click the link above just to get on the same board as I am. So these needs in this video will be based off of them retaining those players and those players also in that video getting cut. So also in this video, it'll be an order of importance for draft needs as well. So for the number one draft need for the Green Bay Packers in 2022, I have interior defensive line. The Packers have a big need for more interior defensive linemen. They drafted TJ Slayton last year in the 5th round out of Florida, but during late last season, they cut Kingsley Keke due to a fallout with a coach. Tyler Lancaster is an unrestricted free agent. I don't believe he will be back regardless. And that really leaves the Packers with only two solid starters, Kenny Clark and Dean Lowry, who had a good season last year, but is also a cap casualty, and he could potentially be cut as well. They need another defensive lineman in general and one to help against the run. Now, TJ Slayton could become the defensive lineman to stop the run for the Green Bay Packers, but that doesn't negate the fact that they still need more defensive lineman depth. And Kingsley Keke took up 36.5% of snaps last year at defensive lineman, and Tyler Lancaster took up 29.6% of snaps. So two big rotational holes to fill. TJ Slayton can be accounted for. One, I wanted him to get more snaps all year, so he could obviously slot into one of those snap counts and hopefully produce, but not both. Kingsley Keke also accounted for 24 pressures and 3 sacks, so that production also needs to be replaced. Some guys in this draft I've been looking at, someone like Jordan Davis from Georgia, who's 6'7", 360 pounds, would be a huge addition to this defensive line room. I mean, pun intended. Devontae Wyatt, also out of Georgia, or Travis Jones from Connecticut would also be good fits for the Packers to draft. All right, so for my number 2 biggest need for the Packers in this draft, I actually have tight end. And a lot of people may think, hey, you shouldn't be drafting tight ends early. You can find them later in the draft. But hey, when you find a very solid tight end, what it can do for your offense, the sky's the limit with that. The lack of a good vertical tight end has really hurt the Packers offense this year, with Robert Tonyan being an impending free agent and also coming off a torn ACL. We really don't know what's going to happen there. Will the Packers re-sign him for, a 1-year prove-it deal? But even then, will we even see him till the middle of the year? We really don't know. And like I said, he's an impending free agent, so he could just sign with another team. We really don't know. So there's a huge question mark in the Packers tight end room currently, which consists of Josiah DeGuara, a former 3rd-round draft choice who really hasn't done much. Torn ACL 2 years ago, but last year hasn't really done much. Tiny flashes here and there, but that's about it. Not really consistent. Mercedes Lewis, who said he's coming back, but I think it's dependent on Aaron Rodgers, but he's primarily a blocker, so that kind of, negates him from the whole vertical tight end argument. Tyler Davis, which is an edge roster guy. Who knows if he'll even be on the roster next year. And then Dominique Daphne, who's a free agent, but he's exclusive rights free agent, so they'll probably bring him back for just over $800,000 contract, but he's also an H-back type tight end, not really a vertical guy. A Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, or George Kittle type tight end. If the Packers were to find that in the draft and add that to this offense, it would just add so much. And as I said, I'm not big on drafting tight ends early unless it's really the guy will add to your offense day one, slot him right in. This guy's a mismatch monster and will help out your offense. But if like someone like Trey McBride in this year's draft, I mean, he had 1,100 receiving yards. I would be ecstatic if they somehow snagged him in the 2nd round. And then even some tight ends in the middle rounds, Derek Dees out of San Jose State, Cole Turner from Nevada, Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina, all good receiving tight ends that had productive 2021 seasons. The third biggest draft need for the Green Bay Packers I have as wide receiver. Now, as I said earlier, this could easily be number one if they lose Davante Adams. If Davante Adams goes and signs on another team, this easily jumps up to number one or number two. And even retaining Davante Adams and Allen Lazard, which I have in my Fixing the Cap video, I still think this is a need, and that's why I have it at number 3. Because losing Marquez Valdes-Scantling would leave a big hole on the Green Bay Packers offense in terms of having a deep threat wide receiver. The Packers offense is not nearly as good without MVS or a deep threat wide receiver out there. We saw that in the San Francisco game. So getting a speedy deep threat wide receiver in the draft would be a must if MVS did end up leaving. Guys like Traylon Burks from Arkansas, Jahan Dotson from Penn State, Sky Moore, who's extremely fast from Western Michigan, and Jalen Tolbert, who is one of the better deep threats in college in 2021 from South Alabama. All guys that can take the top off of defenses. If the Packers could snag any of those guys, that would surely, at least start to replace the void left by MVS. Now, obviously, if the Green Bay Packers did indeed lose Davante Adams, the type of wide receiver need would certainly change. For number 4, for the biggest needs for the Packers in the draft this year, I do have edge. So outside linebackers, edge rushers. I think the Packers are very likely to lose one of Zadarius Smith or Preston Smith. In my video, I have them cutting Zadarius Smith. It saves them a little bit more money, but regardless, losing one or both, same thing with the receiver thing. If they have to cut Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith, this jumps up to number 1 or number 2, just like wide receivers. And even if they only cut one, you can never have enough pass rushers, as I always say. And a lot of people think, hey, you'll have Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith. You'll be fine. Those are 2 very quality starters, which they are. Rashawn Gary took a huge jump, played really well. Preston Smith also played really well after a down 2020 year, but they both played only about 64% of snaps on defense. That's kind of the norm with edge rushers. They're not going to be out there the whole time. They can't. You need rotational guys to go in, so that leaves about 36% for rotational guys. Now, the Packers do have Tipa Nalai, who I did like, who I think will remain on this team and will be a rotational guy. John Garvin as well, also a decent depth guy, but that still leaves room for someone that I think they should draft, develop, and basically have for rotation edge rushing. Nick Bonito from Oklahoma, Kingsley Enagbare from South Carolina, Drake Jackson from USC, all guys I would love in Green Bay. All right, so for the final and number 5 for the Green Bay Packers draft needs for 2022, I have offensive tackle. Billy Turner is turning 31 next season, and it is also the last year of his deal. Elton Jenkins, who I think could potentially be the future at right tackle, but obviously tore his ACL late last season. We might not see him till late next season in 2022. David Bakhtiari, also turning 31 and had a very bad recovery from that ACL surgery. We saw him at 3 drives in Detroit in the last week of the season. Going into the playoffs, we thought, okay, that was just a pitch count. He's still somewhat practicing. We'll probably see him in the playoffs. All will be well. And then the playoffs come around. David Bakhtiari inactive. So basically just a roller coaster of will he play, will he not play, of David Bakhtiari in 2021. So again, he's also getting older there. The Packers getting a tackle at some point in this draft, whether that be the 3rd round, the 6th round, I think is a must. I think they 100% need to draft a tackle in this draft. Now, as for the interior offensive line, I think the Packers are pretty well off. They're very young interior, Josh Myers, John Runyon, Royce Newman. I think they're kind of set there for the next 5+ years. Tackle, not so much. Now, someone I would love in Green Bay is Daniel Falele, an absolute unit. If you haven't heard of this guy, go look him up. He's out of Minnesota, and he would be a beast of a right tackle. Probably the biggest tackle prospect I've ever seen in my life. And other guys such as Darian Kennard from Kentucky, Max Mitchell from Louisiana, and Luke Goedeke from Central Michigan, who actually he's from Wisconsin, but could all be developmental right tackles and the future at right tackle for the Green Bay Packers. So that about does it for my list of draft needs for the Green Bay Packers for this 2022 NFL draft. What do you think the Green Bay Packers top needs are? Do you agree with mine, or do you think one should be higher than the other? Just leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Draft season is finally starting to kick off. I will start my mock drafts here shortly. Every week I'll probably be doing a mock draft. I'll start those, like I said, shortly, so be on the lookout for those. But on that note, I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.